Hi, welcome to Manas Shield YouTube channel. Before we start, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. Let's start the video. If you haven't watched the previous video, I'll link it in the description box, or you can click here. Tensura Volume 20. Chapter 1. The First Battle. Unexpected Event. After a fierce battle, Midley and Mujika faced each other. They were looking for each other's opening and were unable to attack each other. Then Mujika opened his mouth. "You are a good player. Shall I ask your name?" "Midley. Shall I ask your name too? If it's the name of a man so fierce that he amuses me so much, it's worth remembering." Despite being enemies, Midley and Mujika recognize each other. Mujika, in particular, seems to have become more human after the wrist's life, and his skills have become less mechanical and more brilliant. Midley may have sensed this change, and he truly approves of Mujika. Otherwise, he would not have exposed his full strength. But this is a battlefield, and both men are enemies. They recognize each other, but what they are doing is killing each other. Midley laughed and brought out his left fist in a fluid motion. He pulled back his left fist faster than the speed at which he thrust it, and used the recoil to throw a spinning kick. This is a so-called feint, but in Midley's case, it is not the only one. When he clenched his fist for the first time, he compressed the air and shot out. Moreover, since he mixed the air with fighting spirit, the power of his fists was more powerful than that of a mana bullet. Mujika had his sword ready in response to the fist, so he was able to repel the compressed air bullet. However, right after that, Midley's kick cleanly entered the gap left by Mujika's, lifting his sword to the upper level. Gwa. The force of the kick, which penetrates under the armor, runs through Mujika's entire body, and affects his physical functions. Needless to say, Midley's kicks were full of fighting spirit. Midley was a master of battle will. Just as the Ryokan school had sprouted in the other world where Velgrin had arrived, here in the Cardinal world, a unique school had been introduced. This school, which uses basic movements similar to those of Koryu Jujutsu and manipulates the body by incorporating its own fighting spirit, also expressed the unrestrained spirit of Melon, the founder of the school. There is no name of this school, but if we were to naming it, it would be Ryumaken. Incidentally, there is no ritual of inheriting Kanpaku, soul, as in Dragon Fist. The knowledge and experience accumulated by a person are all that he or she has acquired. The lifespan of a person in the Cardinal world varies widely, and is greatly extended by the way he or she lives. Training and physical conditioning through battle will alone can increase a person's life expectancy by several times, and a pureblood like Midley can live for more than 1,000 years. In fact, Midley was over 2,000 years old. Midley was strong because he had spent all that time in training. Mujika was hit by Midley's kick and took a step backward. Then he glanced at the hit area and was astonished. His shell armor, which had not suffered even a scratch from a half-hearted attack, was crushed with a big dent. The lower-ranked soldiers of Insector have no fear, so they repeatedly attack by suicide attack as they were ordered, no matter how superior they are. However, the higher ranks, due to their rarity, were able to instinctively grasp the difference in power between them and their opponents. The accuracy of the insect general is quite high, and it can almost accurately estimate their fighting ability. However, this is limited only to the direct ability, so it cannot detect the authority of skill. And, of course, you cannot know how much the target has been trained without actually fighting with it. Mujika was now on the maximum alert against Midley because of the blow he had just received. Although he had been empowered by Peleid, he calmly judged that he might lose if the game was prolonged. Then, the only thing he could do was to show his respect to his opponent with his best technique with all his strength. "Taste my technique, eat my fangs." Mujika's weapon is not strictly speaking a sword. It is an alenium forged into a blade. Now, as Mujika has evolved, it has become sharper and sharper. Furthermore, Mujika's mana was poured into the blade, which was comparable to a mythical grade blade, and it became so powerful that it could cut off any substance, and approached Midley. However, Midley was unmoved. He raised his left hand, caught Mujika's blade with his left arm. Yes, he caught it. A hard, unpleasant sound rang out, deafening. It was the melody of a shock wave created by the collision of equal power and hardness. Nonsense. Why are you surprised? If you had the spirit, it would be easy to use your own body as a weapon. It's not easy. Mujika's response is the correct one. But Midley was a man who was always trained to deal with the unreasonableness of Melon. He had no idea that his logic was insane to ordinary people, and he never doubted that it was normal. Of course, he does not manage to do so only by his willpower. It is a certain skill, covered by dragon scales, for one thing. Midley controls his own fighting spirit and hardens his body. He anticipates where the attack will come and focuses his attention on that part of the body. He concentrated all his fighting energy on that part of his body, even though it might lower the defenses of other parts of his body. This has given his left arm enough defensive power to withstand mythical great power, and it would be quite reckless to call it a mere Kai spirit. It is only possible because of Midley. Midley's true nature is in the position of Ryujin, which Gabba will reach someday, and with his divine physical strength, he can fight against mythical great fighters with his guts called Kai. And of course, the technology was not limited to defense. Now it's my turn. Midley grinned as he sat back down, his left hand still on the blade. This is the Shikouchi stance in karate. He then diverts the enormous energy generated in his left arm and concentrates it in his right fist. Furthermore, he took in the energy of the earth's veins flowing through this star from his feet, which were in contact with the earth, and not only that, he stored the energy of the star itself in his body. This was the essence of Seishin Daoka or Dragon Magic Fist. Of course, the physical burden was unimaginable, but Midley was able to overcome it with his spirit. He did not think about what would happen next, but only about winning. No. By the time Mujika sensed the danger, it was already too late. Dragonic Blast. This was Midley's ultimate technique, the strongest technique that even surpassed the Dragon Fang Cannon. At first glance, it was just a straight fist thrust, exactly the same as the one that had smashed Insect General Cyril's body to pieces, but his power was beyond the laws and common sense of this world. It was the same for Mujika. She finally understood Midley's abnormality, after he made a big hole in the center of his chest, but it was already too late. Is it not enough just to be cautious? I'm getting old as a geezer myself. Mujika thinks with his last thought. But for some reason, the defeat was pleasant. Mujika died satisfied not as an insect general, but as a warrior. You good, Midley-san, Carrere's eyes whitened. He was a likable man, but his strength was admirable even in Carrere's eyes. Just watching this awakened master class in his advanced offense and defense, Carrere felt as if she had gained a great deal of experience. For now, however, the priority was to deal with the remaining problem of Peleid. Now that Midley had defeated Mujika, they were ready to launch an all-out battle. It would be nice if Carrere could join them, but she was not ready to move yet. Zelanis's blow was that deadly. Carrere, feeling frustrated at her own inadequacy, calmly analyzes the situation of the battle. Good grief, bugs are really troublesome. That was her true feeling and conclusion. Just now, Peleid's power has increased further. It was good that he had defeated Mujika, but Peleid had been strengthened. The reason is that it has taken Mujika's power as well. The power of Cess was directly taken by Zelanis. Therefore, there was no reduction to Peleid. However, if Mujika dies on this battlefield, as Mujika did, all her power is absorbed into Peleid. And by using it, Peleid can restructure its own body as well. This is the tricky thing about Peleid's power that dominates this battlefield. Peleid's whole body is covered with warrior-like armor, and her hand holds a sword. Having taken Mujika's characteristics and experience into her own hands, Peleid now seemed to be able to fight in melee combat as well. It seems that her weaknesses are disappearing more and more. I'm so glad that Millard's policy of no casualties is working when it comes to taking away the power of the fallen on this battlefield. The power of those who died on this battlefield, friend or foe, will flow to Peleid. The only way to break such a condition is to destroy the boundary that covers this battlefield. But that is impossible. Because not only Insect Lord Zelanis, the leader of the enemy, but also Demon Lord Milim, are making efforts to maintain the wards. Otherwise, this planet itself would have disappeared long ago. Zelanis's goal was to dominate the planet, not to destroy it, which is the only reason why the two camps agreed on this point, and the environmental protection by the barrier was naturally maintained. As a result, however, Peleid's domination was completed. It is a very troublesome story, but it is too late to realize it now. Well, it seems that there will be no further enhancements. Or will there? Don't be in a hurry. We'll just have to find a way to get around it somehow. There are no Insector survivors except the Emperor and the Queen. Unless there are casualties from the Allied camps, it is safe to assume that there will be no further reinforcements. And of course, Aber and Midley correctly understood the current situation, as Carrere realized. Therefore, they could not take any reckless suicide attacks or self-sacrificing tactics, and the only course of action was to continue the endurance warfare, which was a passive but steady approach to inflicting damage. However, since this has been the strategy from the beginning, no one has been in a hurry or mentally overawed. Even though Peleid was reinforced, the strategy remained the same, and they maintained the strategy centering on Aber and Geld, steadily waiting for Peleid to get exhausted. That's great, but even though a strong player named Midley had joined the war, the situation was not getting better, but rather, the situation was getting worse. Carrere was in danger of losing the war. The battle between Milim and Zelanis was on a different level and had been lost in her mind. What she needed to think about now was how to attack Peleid before any of her friends would be killed. There was nothing decisive. It was a miracle that the battle was in balance, and such a tightrope situation could not last for long. Even a single mistake would lead to the defeat of the war like an ant breaking through a dike. Before that happens, they must do something. Carrere's expression turns angry again, and she glares at her right arm, which does not seem to be moving. If she does not move now, she will have no reason to be here. In other words, this is a big problem that affects the reason for Carrere's existence. This is the reason why she asks for strength. At that moment, the golden gun glowed faintly. Then I will lend you my strength. Carrere heard an inaudible voice. Carrere is startled for the first time in a long time. And the next moment, the battle was the return of a myth. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy it.